I want to talk to you today about the classic book called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. This is the second in a three-part series. As I said, I thought I could get through the first time I got through one of the agreements, and now I thought I could do three, but the answer is two, so I'll cover the next one the next time I'm here in September. I promise you the fourth and final agreement, it'll be worth coming back for. It reminds me of, I don't know about you all, but when I was growing up, I'd be watching a show on TV, and all of a sudden it would say, "To be continued." And it'd be like, oh no, does Batman live or not? I mean, it would just put this anxiety. So this is going to be continued. But I do want to catch you up a little bit on the book if you weren't here last time. The Four Agreements was published in 1997, so it's been out over 20 years. I highly recommend it if you haven't read it. It's a very short book. It's a very simple book. But sometimes simple is profound, and I think in this case that's true. Don Miguel Ruiz, the author, does not take credit for any of the wisdom in the book. He says that he is merely spelling out the Toltec wisdom of the Toltec society that lived in southern Mexico about the year 900 AD. The Toltec society, sometimes called the Society of the Ancient Ones, were a race of people who were teachers of spirituality, of science, and art. Now, some people don't believe that they actually existed as a society, that all these wise people were together. It was right before the Aztecs took over. So we really don't know if that happened or not, but what we do know is this wisdom has been passed on for generations that we can grow and learn from. So it doesn't even matter to me if that was the whole society. They did embrace the wisdom, ideals, spiritual concepts, and peaceful ways of the ancient ones. So they were a society that valued elders and the wisdom that people had by the time they were elders. And wouldn't that be nice if we had a little bit more of that in the United States of America? I would vote for that. So, when we look at the Four Agreements, I want to emphasize the word agreements. The Toltec wisdom makes it clear that before we are age 6, we are taught many, many things, and we agree to them without having any filter on. Because we're children, we just take them in as truth. And so, in these four agreements, they're asking us to make agreements with ourselves that we have thought about and consciously decided to do with our adult brain, instead of our child brain that just has to accept them or we're going to get in trouble. So the agreements are really about a conscious decision with yourself, how you want to be in the world. Don Miguel Ruiz believes that if we commit to these four agreements, that our life will be transformed, that we will have more happiness and more serenity. So to really consider them. Last time I was here, I went over the first agreement, which is be impeccable in your word. Tell the truth. Don't commit to something that you're not able to follow through on. Don't say negative things about yourself. And don't say negative things about other people. Be impeccable in your word. So today I'm going to go over the next two agreements, starting with the second one. Don't take things personally. Now think about that. Don't take things personally. To me, that's a lot easier said than done. Have you had that experience? Those are pretty words, but how do we do it? Because I know our tendency as human beings is to take everything personally. Do you do that? We make our world into just our world. And so I know for myself at least, it was a shock the first time I found out it's not about you. I was like, you're kidding. Well, I think it is. Nope, it's not about you, Patti. So if you haven't learned that yet in your life, I'm here to tell you, it's not about you either. But sometimes it feels like it is, doesn't it? When people are saying to you something like this, You didn't do what you said you were going to do. You told me you would be here at 6 o'clock, and you did not show up at my house until 6:22. You lied to me. Yeah, I cannot depend on you, because one thing you say and then you don't follow through with it. Doesn't that sound like they're making it about you? And they're pointing their finger going, you? Because those things are true. It does sound like that. It sounds like, oh, you're talking about me, and you're using that finger to say you. But the reality is, it's still not about you. The reality is, it's about the other person. It's about their struggle that's going on inside of them. It's about the other person feeling abandoned. And hey, that happened to me when I was younger. And hey, that happened to me from 6 o'clock to 6:22 when we just had this experience together. I'm feeling that wound inside of me. And I'm projecting that hurt and that wound onto you. So, this agreement is to not take things personally, is to go a little bit deeper. To be able to say, oh, this person is really telling me about their pain, their hurt, and they're telling me because they think I can fix it. They want some help from me. So this agreement is to not take things personally, but be able to see the hurt in the other person. And to ask, how can I help you with that? Now, if I'm taking it personally, I can't do that. I can't help because I'm too busy defending myself, trying to prove myself, trying to prove the other person wrong. But if I don't take it personally, and I know it's not about me, then I can step into your pain. I can step into your world, and I can help you fix whatever that is. So, the question is, how do we do that? Because our automatic is to make it about us. So the question is, how do we shift into not taking things personally? I think it's incredibly difficult at first. I think it's kind of like moving a train 1 inch. It takes a lot of energy to move a train 1 inch. But if you get the wheels rolling, then it doesn't take so much energy for the train to go 100 miles an hour, because it's sustaining itself and it doesn't need as much energy. So what I'm saying is, if you practice not taking things personally, it will get easier and easier and become automatic about, this really isn't about me. So the question is, how do we do it? I think we have to have an intervention thought. And this is the thought. It is not about me. Now, I'm not suggesting you say that out loud, but that you think it inside automatically. This is not about me. This is about the other person who is upset, and they're in pain, and they're trying to get me to get something. I need to really be listening here. This is not about me. It needs to become a habit. Because the truth is, it really is about the other person. In therapy, there's a saying that if it's hysterical, then it's historical. So if somebody has a huge response to something that you think, you're kidding, this is like a nothing, it's not about what happened right now. It's about connecting to a wound that happened to me when I was younger, and it's gotten triggered right now. But it's the other person, it's not about them, it's about really hearing what is that wound that's going on. Have you ever overreacted to anything? Anybody not do that? Never. Now, Tim, I want to touch your cloth, and the hem of your cloth, because really, I know I certainly have overreacted to things because it's about history. It's about some kind of wound that I'm carrying around. Now, as a psychotherapist, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a psychotherapist during the week and a minister during the weekend. But as a psychotherapist, I have come to know that wounds are really divided into 2 parts. There's the abandonment wound, and there's the suffocation wound. And with the abandonment comes a lot of panic, and with the suffocation comes a lot of feeling of I'm invisible, nobody can see me. So for me, I got the abandonment wound. My father, who was extremely bonded to me as a child, went to work when I was 3 years old, and he didn't come home. Just one day. He went to work, and then he wasn't there anymore, and he wasn't in my life anymore. So, you can imagine how easy it was for my husband when he came home late from work. He might be able to tell you those stories. Even if he was late 5 minutes, I would already be in my abandonment wound. I would already be thinking, oh, he's dead on the side of the road. He's not coming home. I'll never see him again. So when my husband got home, he found this loving, loving bride hysterical, out of her mind. Like, where have you been? You told me you'd be home at 5 o'clock. It's 5:20. What happened? And then I would proceed to tell him everything that he was doing wrong, how selfish he was and inconsiderate, and why didn't he call me? And this was before cell phones. And he was self-absorbed, and he didn't think about anybody but himself, etc., etc. I was pointing my finger, you, when really it wasn't about him at all. It was about my wound that I carried. So, I had that wound long before I met him. Now, how did we fix it? Well, my husband had to learn to say to himself, this is not about me. I haven't done anything wrong at all. This is about her. This is about her woundedness. And I can help with that. Because really, if you make it about you, you cannot help. But if you make it about the other, you can see their pain and respond to it. And that's what this agreement is about, to learn not to take things personally, but to be able to see the other person in the interaction. Eventually, my husband was able to get, wasn't about him, and that how to fix it would to be come home early 5 minutes. If he told me 5, he would be there at 4:55. And it worked. It healed me. It healed my little 3-year-old that thought, if he's not here, he's not coming. And I came to know, even if he was late, he was going to come home, and I was safe. So that's what this agreement is about, to learn not to take somebody else's wound as something you've done wrong and you have to defend yourself, to not take it personally. The second thing you have to do with this agreement is really become aware of the wounds that you're carrying around. Do you have an abandonment wound? Do you have a suffocation wound? To really start to know yourself and not hold the other person responsible for your woundedness, but be able to recognize, oh no, this is my stuff. At our house, it's kind of funny. It's like, is this your stuff or my stuff? I think this is your stuff, but it could be my stuff. Where you start really recognizing, I'm carrying woundedness, and I don't want to put it onto you. So, I had a client 30 years ago. I still remember this session, because the wife was saying something wasn't working in her life, and her husband said, did I do something wrong? And she had not thought of that yet. But I remember her stopping, looking at her partner and going, yes, as a matter of fact. And then she started telling him things he had done wrong. And I said to him, this is not about you. This is not about you at all. Why are you stepping forward to say, what's my part? So don't make it about you. A more honest answer from his wife when he said, did I do something wrong, would have been, no, it's not about you. It's my stuff, my wound. So this not taking things personally means you have to own your own stuff, and you also have to have that intervention thought as a habit. Oh, this isn't about me. Even if they're telling me it's me, it's not me. It's their woundedness. How can I help? Sometimes I tell my husband, I'm in a grumpy mood. I don't know why I woke up grumpy, but it's not about you. Because I don't want him to react to it as if it's about him, because it's not at all. So being able to own with your partner or whoever you're interacting with that, this isn't really about you, it's about me, and this is where it comes from, and if you could help me with it, that'd be great. I want to give you one more example, just so you know it's not about you. I want you to think of your friend, your very close friend, or your partner who's had a great night's sleep. He's very rested. He's very happy in the morning. He goes to work. He stops at the Valero and gets a lottery ticket and wins $10,000 instantly. He gets to work and his boss says, "We have decided to promote you. It will come with a raise, and you know what? You can take off the rest of the day." Now you have lunch plans with this friend or partner. How do you think he's going to treat you? If, on the other hand, he only had 3 hours sleep, he drove to work, he got a flat tire, he had to change the tire in the pouring rain, and when he got to work, his boss yelled at him for being late, and you had a lunch engagement with him, how do you think he would treat you that day? The same as when he won the $10,000? Probably not. But the important thing to think about is you would be the same. Your behavior didn't change at all. You're just showing up for lunch. Any behavioral change would have been about him, not you. So we have to learn, oh no, this isn't about me at all. And to be able to hold on to that truth, for sure. Not take it personally. In this, I'm going to talk about the next agreement as well, which is the third agreement. But I want to leave you with the second one. This is not about me. Actually, say that with me. This is not about me. Practice that over and over again. It will help you. It will transform your life. So the next agreement is, do not make assumptions, which goes quite nicely with number 2. In the agreement number 2, don't take things personally, we do take everything personally. And in agreement number 3, don't make assumptions, we're also operating from that. The world rotates around me. I know the answer, and by the way, it's right. Have you ever had that experience in your life? I know, and I know the right answer. And the thing is, everybody else is operating from that too. They know the answer, and they are right as well. And, you know, that's where we get in trouble, because we think if we think it, it's true. If I have that thought, oh, this must be true. If I say, you're angry at me, and you say, I'm not really angry at you, I can project onto you, yes, you are, I know you are, and sometimes we project out this stuff to people, and then we get mad at them for feeling that way. Have you ever done that? And they are not feeling that way. Sharon's like not angry at me, but I might be upset with her because she's angry at me. And she's like, I'm not having that experience, but I'm assuming she is. I'm adding on. That's what I call add-ons. And that, you know, everybody has their own view of their thoughts are right. I remember learning a higher truth about this the first time in my life when I was in 8th grade. I think I've told you this story. I was in a pre-algebra class and loving every minute of it because I love math, because there's numbers and there are right answers. So if you do the math right, you get the right answer, and I love that about math. But my girlfriend that was sitting right next to me said, I don't understand the homework. And my brain kind of exploded because I was like, what? How can you not understand the homework? I thought everybody learned exactly the same. I thought everybody was having exactly the same experience on the planet. So I was shocked to find out that wasn't true. Here was a person that said, I don't understand the homework. I thought, well, how could that be? It's easy peasy. But in this agreement, don't make assumption, it means becoming aware of the fact that every person on the planet, except you, is an other. Every person on the planet is an alien. They think differently than you do. They feel differently than you do. They're experiencing the world differently than you are. Don Miguel Ruiz explains it this way. We all live in our own private dream states. That is, we all live in our own little worlds, and we see the world through our eyes, and so does everyone else. He said the world we live in here on the planet Earth can either be a world of heaven on earth, or it could be hell on earth. And we make it hell on earth when we make assumptions that somebody else is thinking and feeling exactly what we're feeling, and it's right. Those are the add-ons. The truth is, when we add on something, we're just making up a story. And we believe it, but the other person is not having that experience. I had a client this week who is 38, she'll be 39 at the end of the year, and she desperately wants to have a child. She wants to get pregnant. She says that her husband also wants more children. They have one child, but he tells her not right now. Now her fear is that if it isn't right now that she get pregnant at 38, almost 39, she's never going to be able to get pregnant because of her age, which may or may not be true. So her solution is to freeze embryos, that we've got to get some embryos going and get those frozen. But then she added on, my husband will never go along with this. I was like, oh, really? She said, yeah. And I said, well, have you talked to him about it? And she said, no, she just knows that he won't go along. And I said, well, what makes you say that? She said, well, it's expensive, and he won't want to pay the money to have embryos frozen, which infuriates her. Says, it makes me just want to spit in his face. It makes me want to divorce him. I'm like, wait a minute. You haven't even checked it out with him. He might be very, very open to your thinking. She said, no, I'm sure of it. So this agreement with yourself, not to make assumptions, is the one that says, I'm willing to check it out with you. I'm willing to ask you. I'm willing to be curious what you think, and I'm willing to make it safe enough for you to tell me. So when we are willing to not do assumptions, but willing to be curious and ask, we have to be willing to be sincerely curious. I really want to know what you're thinking. I really want to know how you feel about this. Not trying to manipulate you into my world, but I really want to know, are you angry at me, Sharon? And if she tells me no, I need to believe her, instead of putting my stuff on top of her, assuming, oh no, you're not right about what you're thinking or feeling, I'm right about it. So getting rid of judgments, being able to openly ask questions. I mean, I said to this woman, you need to really go home and say, I understand you want more children, and I want more children, and I'm wondering, how are we going to get them? What's your thought about that? How is that going to happen? Are we going to adopt children? Are we going to freeze embryos? Are we going to try to get pregnant now? I just want to know what your vision is, that if you want more children, how are they going to get here? And be open to hearing, well, this is what I think, instead of projecting, no, that's not what you think. Another thing we have to do to not have assumptions is if we ask, then we have to shut up. I cannot tell you how many people I work with, couples, where one partner asks a question and then they just keep talking. Parents do this with their kids too. What were you thinking? Were you thinking this? Blah, 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 blah. They just keep talking. And I have to say to them, if you really want, sincerely want to know that other person, what's going on with them, you have to stop talking. You have to ask the question and then shut your mouth. And then it's safe enough for the other person to share with them. Another thing in letting go of assumptions is being willing to ask for what you want. Have you ever said these words? I confess I have. Well, if you don't know what I'm upset about, I'm certainly not going to tell you. Or if you really loved me, you would know that already. I'm certainly not going to spell it out for you. So part of this agreement with yourself that I'm not going to assume things and I'm not going to expect other people to assume it of me is the use of words. Words are so powerful. To ask questions, to hear where the other person is, and be willing to ask directly for what you want. And don't go into that fantasy that everyone's brain is the same as mine, because they're not. Sometimes in a session someone will say, well, I think he knows. He knows what I'm talking about. And I say to them, I promise you, he does not. He's clueless. He doesn't even know what he's talking about at all. And the wife might say, or the husband might say, oh, I can't believe that. I'm like, well, I'm telling you the truth. Why don't you ask him what he's thinking, what she's thinking, what she's feeling? Check it out with them. Reminds me of a Bible verse. I was raised in the Baptist church. We had to memorize Bible verses. Matthew 7, verses 7 through 8. Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened to you. For everyone that asks receives, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knock the door shall be opened. Don't be afraid. That's what this agreement is about. Don't make assumptions. Instead, sincerely ask, sincerely seek, sincerely knock, and it will be given to you. So I want to challenge you for these next 2 weeks, because this is going to be continued until the fourth agreement shows up in 2 weeks. I want to challenge you these 2 weeks to practice that intervention thought. This is not about me. This is about the other person is trying to tell me something really important, and I need to listen emotionally to their pain. So just practice. This is not about me, even when they're pointing their finger saying you. And the second challenge is to not make assumptions, to be willing to ask, well, what are you thinking about that? And how are you feeling about that? I'm really open to knowing, instead of trying to be judgmental and say what the right answer is. No, I want to know what your answer is. So those are the challenges, those 2 agreements, the next 2 weeks, because I believe if you adopt those, if you agree to live your life that way, even for 2 weeks, your life will be transformed. You will have more happiness and more serenity. And since I love each one of you, I want that for you. More happiness and more serenity. Blessed be, and amen. Thank you. As you leave today, remember the challenge. Let me know in 2 weeks how you did about not taking things personally, and I won't take it personally if you don't do the challenge. It's okay. And also to practice not assuming, but asking directly for information and letting people know what you need as well directly. So, blessed be, have a wonderful 2 weeks, and I can't wait to see you again.